Joined here by Barry Farah, the latest entrant into a crowded Republican race for governor. So you are the, by my count, third wealthy businessman who has come into the race positioning yourself as an outsider. Why did we need another?
Well, fair enough. I think that we have a legitimate way to get all the way through the general election, and based on our internal data, we felt like we were in the best position to pull that off.
So you're in this race because you think you can win this race, but I also know that you've said you're in this race because you found the current field of candidates lacking. Can you support any of them in a general election if you're not the nominee?
Oh, certainly.
Okay. What was it that was so lacking in the field?
Well, I just want to hear more about our founding principles, more about celebrating economic freedom, the dignity of personal responsibility, championing limited government. And so that resonates with me. It's kind of more true blue conservative ideology, and from that platform I think you should make all your decisions.
Okay. I think that there would probably be a lot of folks in the race already who would describe themselves as traditional conservatives like that. Take, for instance, Walker Stapleton. So he's generally presumed to be the front runner. What's a significant policy difference that you have with Stapleton?
Well, from a policy standpoint, I'm sure we have a lot of common ground. And I'm not really here to denigrate Walker Stapleton. I respect his.
Sure, let's talk about policy. What's a policy on which you disagree with Stapleton?
Well, I'm not sure I can say I disagree with the policy. I would just go about certain things differently. I mean, he's been at Farah for quite a while as a board member on the Treasury, and I would do everything I could to endeavor to bring in those other board members to win them over so you could reform it from within and not be in the mess that we're in right now.
So for folks who are not super familiar, this is the pension system for state employees. Treasurer Stapleton has been very critical of it for years and has fought openly with the other board members. You think that approach has not been constructive?
Well, you know, the way I try to do things is a fair, honest, collaborative approach. And so I've been in business for 30 years, and most of that time have had to work with folks that disagree with me on a number of issues. And so the way you win them is you set those rules up front so that everybody believes that they have a fair, legitimate chance of having a contribution to the outcome. And then it's my opinion that you can move more people to be on your side of the table by working with them and not criticizing them from the outside.
So two of the folks that are in this race as well, Treasurer Stapleton and then Secretary of State Cynthia Coffman, or I'm sorry, pardon me, Attorney General Cynthia Coffman. You've contributed to their campaigns in the past. Take any issue with the platforms that they're running on now? Any issues, or are you just saying I have a slightly different approach?
Well, with Cynthia Coffman, I have a little bit more of a measured disagreement.
She's socially moderate. You were not.
I contributed to her campaign. It was before I saw her track left, but you know, personally think she's a wonderful person, so it's not personal. But yeah, I have a very strong disagreement with her ruling and with her siding with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission against Jack Phillips. I thought that was inappropriate. I don't think somebody should be forced to bake a cake as a form of art in contradiction to their conscience. And she, with grand jury subpoena power, has leveled a complaint against Jack Phillips. So as an example, in that role, yeah, I would not call that a conservative move. She could have supported the other attorney generals around the country when they were trying to stop a little bit of a federal overreach. She chose to withdraw from that. And so, in my view, it's not a conservative position. And so through the assembly, it's either most likely going to be her or myself, and I just felt like the assembly needed a conservative candidate.
You wouldn't have gotten in just to torpedo her chances of getting out of the assembly, would you?
No, I would not. I genuinely believe I have the best chance of all the other candidates to win in the general election. But if she was not in the assembly process, we may have had a little more restraint on that.
Polling shows that immigration is the #1 issue of concern to Colorado's Republican primary voters. From a business perspective, what are the systems that your companies have used to verify employment status?
Yeah, so we do all of the normal filing of the I-9s and verifying the employment. We've had a 14 native languages represented in my current company. We have every stripe and kindred and every angle of persuasion represented in my current company. And so, you know, we're very solicitous of getting the very best talent for what we're trying to do, and have a wide variety of strong talent. But we've just complied with the law, and we have people on H-1B visas, and we've had folks that we've turned down during an interview process because you know, they weren't legally able to take the job.
Mm-hmm. Denver is often criticized by conservatives as being a sanctuary city. Mm-hmm. That doesn't have a legal definition, but the federal law does outline what a city has to do to cooperate with federal immigration agents. Do you think Denver's doing anything illegal?
Well, it seems like they are. There's the 1996 August law that is welfare reform, and there's the one that just 1 month later, the immigration reform. Both of them have a signature statement which basically says that you can't do anything to instruct your employees to not cooperate with federal law. And it's specifically related to immigration reform. And I believe that Denver seems to be overtly instructing their employees to not comply with federal law.
So they tell folks don't gather certain information, so therefore if you're ever asked for it, you can't provide it. But Denver doesn't prohibit communication with immigration in the way that San Francisco or New York does. But you still think they're on the wrong side of not just the issue morally or ideologically, but you think they're on the wrong side legally.
It seems that they are to me, because the actual, I mean, I have it sitting here, but notwithstanding any other provision, a law, federal, state, or local government entity or official may not prohibit or in any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to or receiving from the INS. And so in other words, I would say that they're doing everything they can to restrict information from flowing through from Denver to the INS, and I think that's inappropriate.
And that's 1373. So folks who are in the weeds on this and know this, we've talked about USC Section 1373 on this program before. So Attorney General Jeff Sessions wants to declare municipalities that don't honor ICE detainers, the 48-hour ICE detainers. He wants those places to be considered sanctuary cities. Is that a fair definition in your view?
My definition would be if you're violating 1373, you're a sanctuary city, if you want to call it that. To me, it's not really a sanctuary. It's more of a sedition city. It's similar to when you, and maybe this seems extreme, but when we won the Civil War and we won the right for all citizens to be treated equally, there were some in the South that didn't agree with that. And they were doing the same thing that Mayor Hancock is doing now, violating federal law. Now, ultimately, federal law won, and they were all forced into complying. But I just don't think it's appropriate to be so uncooperative with such a de minimis requirement. We're not asking them to be agents of the federal government. We're asking them to cooperate.
Somebody watching is going to say, did Barry Farah just compare Mayor Hancock to whites in the South after the Civil War who fought to restrict blacks? Is that correct?
Well, that may be a little dramatic, but my suggestion is that we shouldn't be violating federal law and picking and choosing one federal law over another and saying, well, I'm more sanctimonious than this other person. And I'm saying, well, no, the guys in the South thought they were actually on the right side of the equation, and they weren't. And so you can't just decide to choose a way, a method to solve a problem outside of law. If you want to fix immigration and you think it's flawed, then you need to fix it through the process of Congress. And I know that seems like a long, arduous process, but you can't just violate federal law because you disagree with it. Two more questions for you in our time remaining. Tom Tancredo was in this race early and then got out. One reason that he got into the race is he was so mad at the way that Republican leaders, in his view, had not stood up for the free speech rights of the white nationalists who wanted to come and speak in Colorado Springs, which is where you're from. What do you make of that? Well, I wasn't connected to any of the things he was doing with the nationalists. I am a very strong opponent of anything that comes across discriminatory or that's pushes one group of people in a box. As I mentioned, my companies have a broad success rate with every type of person there is. And so I'm not a proponent of anything that would be opposed to any group of people. I don't know exactly what happened there. I respect a lot of Tom's conservative ideology, and I think he, you know, is a fiery type of a personality, and so I don't know exactly what happened in that situation.
Just on the face of it, are you glad that the white nationalists aren't bringing their convention to Colorado Springs?
I'm not a fan of the white nationalists in any way, shape, or form.
Last question for you. So I ask this of every candidate who comes out of the world of business and into politics. You'll often hear people say that if government was run more like a business, that'd be good. Based on your business experience, in what way should government absolutely not be run like a business and needs to be run as a totally separate type of thing, despite that being your area of expertise?
No, I understand. I mean, you know, government is not a business. It's not for profit. So when you take care of the customer in a business, you're looking at the customer experience and you're trying to solicit loyalty from a customer. If you're taking care of the taxpayer, you're not trying to solicit loyalty from the taxpayer. You're just trying to do the best you can to give him the most bang for the buck. So as a taxpayer, I'm going to do everything I can to reduce waste. I believe I can reduce waste by 3%. That's $850 million a year. I can take all that $850 million, move it to transportation, fix our roads, get 8 lanes up from I-25 north to south without one extra cost, one extra dollar from the taxpayer, and not one extra dollar of debt.
Barry Farah, businessman from Colorado Springs, running for governor. Thank you for coming up. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.